Okay guys, we got our beer brewing today. Today we're brewing a Munich Helles. A Munich Helles is a traditional German beer. It's a light lager beer with not much bitterness to it. So this is my ingredient list for 5-gallon batch. We've got 7.5 pounds Pilsen malt. This is the malt I'm using. And 2 pounds of Munich 2. So here's the Munich. And then we're going to use pearl hops. The alpha acid is 6.2%. So I'm going to boil that 1 ounce of pearl for, I'm going to make it 40 minutes. I did a little calculation on the computer, and that's going to give me about 20 IBUs. So it's going to be a low bitterness beer. And then towards the end, at flame out, I'm going to put in a 1/2 ounce of pearl as I'm experimenting with that pearl. I haven't made a beer with pearl yet, so I want to check the flavor and the aroma of that hop. What I'm going to do is I'm going to split the batch into 2 different beers. I'm going to ferment it with 2 different yeasts. So I got a SafeLager 3470. I'm going to brew that at room temperature, and also a SafeAle US05. So we'll see later on when they're done fermenting and I get them in the bottle. We'll do a little taste test, compare the two, because the only difference is going to be the yeast. So that's the beer for today. Should make a nice, refreshing beer. And I've been wanting to make something with the pearl hops. That's a German noble hop. So we'll get going on this. I got to grind up my grains and get it going. Okay, for the mash, we're starting out with 3.5 gallons of water. And I adjusted my water with whale water and RO until I ended up with about 130 total dissolved solids. I'm going to try that out, see what my pH comes out to, because last time I was a little bit acidic, so I'm adding a little more well water this time. Alright guys, we're getting fired up. It's early morning. It's a beautiful day out today. I've got my 3.5 gallons of water getting heated up here. I'm going to turn it up a little. Put it on high. And I've got my grains all milled already. I've got my base grain as a Pilsen malt, and then the Munich. So this is going to be a nice kind of reddish colored beer with that Munich in there. This should be a real good beer. Alright, let's check the mash temperature. I got it all stirred up. It's 154, it's still climbing. It's close to 155. Okay, before this mash gets going too far, I'm going to scoop out a sample for my pH test. Just mix this a little bit. We're going to let that sample sit there for a minute and cool off. Then I'm going to test the pH on it a little later. Okay, I'm going to test the pH of my mash before it gets too far along. Let's see what it matches up to. It's kind of matching up to the 5. Alright guys, I've got my sparge water heated and ready to go. And I'm draining out my wort right now. Look at the color of that beer. It's going to be a little darker than a traditional Munich Helles because I added 2 pounds of the Munich malt, but it's kind of in the style of Munich Helles beer. So once I get this all drained, looks like it just stopped draining, and that's how much wort I extracted. So I got a grain bed in here. I'm gonna do is sparge that with my water now. Water, strip it over the grain bed. Alright, I'm going to scoop out all these spent grains. They're pretty dry, so they drained out real good. These are going to be chicken feed. I've heard of people making bread and all kinds of things out of these spent grains. But since we got chickens, they're going to be eating good off of this. Okay, we're going to take our refractometer reading. Couple drops on there. See what we end up at. And we're at 1.045, kind of like what I predicted. So after that half a gallon boils off, we should be right in target area. So our extraction was awesome. Everything worked out real good. Alright guys, while we're waiting for our wort to boil, I went ahead and set up my 2 fermenters. This is a 6.5 gallon fermenter, and then I've got a 5 gallon one here. And what I did was, since I'm going to be splitting this batch and using 2 different yeasts and just see how that affects the flavor of this beer, I marked one here at 2.5 gallons. So we're going to split it between the 2. So we'll fill this one up first. I've got Star Sand in both of them. And I've got my hose, my drain hose. When I drain my beer, my wort off into these buckets, got my drain hose in the bottom. Underneath some Star Sand in this one. So I like to let it soak in there for a while. I like to turn the valve on. Let some of that Star Sand go through the valve. All they've been cleaned out real good. Then I put the Star Sand in. And then I'll spray the entire outsides, the lids, the underside of the lids. We'll get this all Star Sand up before we put our beer in there. So that's something you can do while you're waiting for your boil kettle to go. Let's see how we're doing here. I think it's starting to warm up a little bit. I'm getting a little steam off of it. If you can see the steam. Alright, our pot's just starting to boil. So I'm going to have to get my spoon in there. Make sure it doesn't boil over. Alright, I got a good rolling boil going. So I'm getting ready to add the hops. My first hops are 1 ounce of pearl hops. I'm going to put that into the hop screen. Stir it up a little bit. Alright, I just turned the flame off, so we're going to add our last hop. I'm going to put it in the hop spider screen thing there, and we're just going to stir that in real good. I'm going to start my wort chiller. I've already had it soaking in the wort for a while here, about 10 minutes to sanitize it. While it's boiling. So I'm just going to come over and turn the water on. And the way I've got the water set up here, Got my water lines just hanging off the edge of the porch here. So I'm going to look for kind of a slow, steady stream coming out of this one here. Get some water coming out. So let's see what the temperature of that water is. Just out of curiosity, see how hot it is. And it's really hot. This first water comes out real hot. Look at the, there we go. Temperature coming out of that chiller is over 140 degrees right now. So I'll let that run for a while. I'll let it run off the edge of the porch until it chills that wort down to about 70, 75 degrees. And then we're going to drain it off into our fermenters over here. Alright guys, so I'm chilling my wort, and we got the water flowing here. Once in a while you have to give it a stir, make sure everything's evening up. So I leave my spoon in here because it's been in some boiled wort, and I'm leaving my thermometer in there also so I can keep an eye on the temperature. I just got a clothespin holding it there. Okay, so our wort is chilling down. I'm getting our fermenters all sanitized and set up. I've got our airlocks all set up with a little bit of star sand inside them. And these buckets I had filled about halfway with star sand, and I was sloshing them around once in a while. And now I've drained them all back off into their containers. So what I'm going to do is next is I'm going to spray the outside of the buckets with star sand while we're waiting for our brew to chill down. Okay, the smaller fermenter, we're going to put the SafeLager 3470 in. And I've sanitized my scissors. Also the outside of the use packet been sanitized. So this is ready to go. Alright guys, so this bucket, the bigger bucket, we're going to put the SafeAle US05 in there. And then when we get this all bottled up, we'll see what the difference is just between these two yeasts. This is the ale yeast, the other one's a lager yeast. Alright guys, here we are about a month later. These beers have been aging. I only have one of the ales left, so this is the last one. I've got maybe 5 or 6 of these lagers left. I figure I'd do the comparison now, about a month later. What I did is I split the batch. It's a Munich Helles, and I used the US05 for the ale and SafeLager 3470 for the lager. I pitched, it was 2.5 gallons each, and I pitched the whole packet of yeast in each one. So we're going to do a direct comparison, taste test here, and pour. We'll do a pour on them. Whew. Better tip that glass a little bit. I did, like I usually do, I do warm up my beer. I don't keep them really ice cold. I kind of like my beers a little more on the warm side. So there's the ale. And we'll pour the lager. I'll do the same thing, I'll pour it straight in. And I'm going to tip a little bit. Both have a nice head on them. As far as color difference, I got them both in the same type of glass. It's a borosilicate glass. Let's take them, look at them up close here. See if there's a color difference between them. I'm not really seeing much of a difference. I'm going to hold them up to the light a little bit. Nope, I'm not seeing any difference in color. Head retention's about the same. I'm going to take a sip of the ale. Oh, it's good. Trying to taste the lager. Oh, wow. The lager is smoother, has a little less fruity taste to it, and I don't know why, but the alcohol kind of jumped out at me more too on the lager. I could taste the alcohol more. It's just cleaner taste. Try it again. Very smooth. I like the lager. It's really good. The ale's really good too, though. The ale has more complex taste to it. It's I think I can taste the caramel malt a little more in the ale, and the hops too. Everything just stands out a little stronger in the ale and the lager. Both of these I brewed at the same temperature too. I brewed them at room temperature, both of them, which the 3470 is kind of legendary in that you can brew it at warmer temperatures and it'll still come out pretty clean. But yeah, I like them both a lot. I don't know. It's hard for me to make a decision. The ale has a little bit more of a harshness to it than the lager, but they're both very good beers. Try this experiment yourself, guys, if you're gonna, and see what you like, what you prefer. I like both of them really. This has a little stronger flavor to it. I'm not any kind of a beer judge, but just offhand, I noticed the ale has more of a strong flavor. The lager is just smoother, a little less harsh tasting. The alcohol stands out a little more in the in the lager. I think I prefer the lager most days, but you know, some days you're gonna want a different beer, so the ale's good. I was kind of surprised. I wasn't sure how much of a difference there would be between the two, but the yeast, just using different yeast, will make a pretty big difference in the flavor of your beer. So guys, go ahead and do an experiment like I did and try it and see what you like.